Saleema Noon is a respected sexual health educator who has a master's degree in sexual health education. She is the stepmom to two preteen girls, which gives her firsthand knowledge of what our children are up to in cyberspace and other places. It is my pleasure to welcome Saleema Noon back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thanks, Fanny.
I suggest in the introduction that you, of course, are educated, highly educated in sexual health, but I bet you learned a few things from those preteen girls.
Oh, you know what?
And you still are.
There is no degree. There is no degree that replaces knowing what to do with your own kids. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly recognizing that I'm not nearly as cool as a stepmom as I thought I would be.
Really? None of us are as cool moms as we thought we would be. And you know what? When they grow up, when they're like 30 and 40, they tell you.
Yeah.
How uncool you really were.
Well, they already do.
Of course, but you want them to. You want all teenagers to communicate with you.
Exactly.
And that's the trick.
At least they're talking.
To feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you work so hard helping girls be who they really are. Not who Hollywood tells them they should be, not to grow up to be a real housewife, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it is such a challenge because the messages in the media and in society in general start affecting girls at younger and younger ages. It is everywhere, especially now. It's not just TV, it's not just the radio, it's not just what girls tell them at school, it's not what their brother bothers them about, but it's what they're seeing on the internet. And it's just this constant pressure that's coming at them from a very young age, from all different directions, to look a certain way and act a certain way and dress a certain way and be a certain way and have certain things just to be accepted.
Sure. Well, when you see on TV toddlers in tiaras, you wonder where it all begins.
Yeah.
Perhaps there, part of it.
And that's the thing. And you know, parents struggle to know what to do and what not to do with all of this. And you know, at age 6 and 7, it seems harmless enough to take your daughter as a special treat to get a mani-pedi. But what are we teaching our kids in doing that? What's the message we're sending? I remember when Afton was back in, I think it was grade 7.
One of yours?
She got invited to a birthday party at the Opus Hotel. And they rented suites.
I'd like to go to that.
I've never been to a birthday party at the Opus Hotel. They rented suites and they did the mani-pedis, and you know, it was a very grown-up
So all growing
party.
up too soon in a sense. I know when I get mine, my mani-pedis, often there's young girls in there, and they're getting colored polish and all of that, and I'm trying to figure out what I think about it, but it seems to me too soon. You should be playing in the dirt.
Yeah.
And not worrying about your nails yet.
Yeah, if you're doing these things when you're 7 and 12 and 13, what are you going to do when you're 16? What are you going to save? Like, what's going to be exciting and new and interesting if you've already done it?
Right.
You know, there's got to be some kind of rite of passage and milestones as you get older. But it's tough for parents. You know, they want the best for their kids.
Of course.
And often parents aren't thinking 5, 10 years down the road. They're thinking in the moment. I mean, they're just surviving day to day.
Right. See, in my day, a treat was going to the movie or getting a chocolate bar, and now even that isn't always the way to raise a child. Bribe them with food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to the sexting thing, I'm assuming it's sex and text
so yeah,
together.
The term sexting that we hear in the media refers to the sending of graphic sexual text messages to each other, or even graphic sexual photos.
Okay.
Yeah. And what we're seeing is that more and more young people, and we're talking kind of 11, 12, 13 age group, have cell phones. But they're not quite understanding yet, and I don't think they're capable of understanding yet, the difference between public and private. With the internet in any form, whether that's texting or Facebook or email or whatever it is, being as public as you could possibly get, and our bodies and sexuality being as private.
Sure, I understand. When you graduate from law school and you showed Harry your boobs on your phone when you were 14, guess what could pop up?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, young people aren't thinking 10 years down the road. They're thinking tomorrow. And what I find most concerning and most sad about this is, you know, in a few situations where I've been called into a school to help deal with sexting and the issues they're having around that, girls are saying, well, we sent those pictures to a boy because we wanted him to notice us. It just makes me think, what are we doing wrong?
And
we're
what
in
are the boys
2012,
sending?
and the boys are sending them on to their friends because in our society, it's pretty cool for girls to send naked pictures to you. You're a stud. right? Nothing's changed since when we were growing up.
But what if you are a stud and you're sending yourself back to them, as they have done in some higher circles?
Yes.
Apparently in the U.S. government, but we won't go there.
More often, what I've seen anyway, is girls texting pictures of their bodies.
More than boys texting pictures of their bodies to the girls.
Exactly.
See, we were afraid to call a boy. Not you, perhaps. You're a bit younger, but if you called a boy, it could hurt your reputation.
It was the same situation for me.
On the phone.
And if a boy wanted to call a girl, I mean, if a boy wanted to call me in grade 7, he would have to risk that my dad would answer the phone.
Exactly.
Now, kids bypass that altogether because, first of all, they're not calling each other.
True.
At all. They're texting.
Right, instant communication.
And they just do it on their personal phones. And what we're also seeing is that relationships among young people progress at such a faster rate because they're much braver through text. They say things and do things that they wouldn't normally have the courage to say face to face.
I understand, we all do, and then there's the nuance, and sometimes you don't quite get what somebody meant, be it an email, a text, and you take it wrong,
open to interpretation.
And then the can of worms opens.
So
all of that.
You know, it's scary for parents. It's easy for parents to think, oh my goodness, how am I going to ever deal with this? How can I really be an influential force in my child's life when there's so much else to compete with?
Well, and you're not around them 24/7.
Yeah.
And
we can't control everything they see and everything they hear and everything they do.
Of course not.
But what we can do is teach them to think critically about what they hear and to make good decisions.
But what if it's not cool? And that's probably not the right word. It's not awesome. It's not something.
Well, that's the difficult part, because then we go back to when our kids are young and the importance of teaching the self-confidence and the self-worth so that they won't have a problem saying, you know what, you guys go ahead. I'm not into that. But they have to have that confidence, that self-esteem to be able to say, that doesn't work for me, and to make decisions that they feel comfortable with regardless of what everyone else is doing.
Did you see the documentary? I'm sure you saw it because you were in it, called Sext Up Kids?
Absolutely.
Maureen Palmer's doc? What did you think?
It was a very realistic and provocative, I think, portrayal of what's happening, and it was a glimpse into our preteens and teens' lives. I got many emails from parents after saying, oh my gosh, what do I do now? This is out there, I had no idea, what do I do? So I think parents are craving solutions. They're recognizing, okay, this is something I wasn't aware of before, now I know it's here, how are we going to deal with it? How can I help my child?
I understand. I mean, again, back to the olden days, we played Naked Twister or Spin the Bottle. Maybe not Naked Twister, maybe just Twister. I don't think we ever played Naked Twister till we got to university, you know? So, but Spin the Bottle, and you thought, oh, I'll
Truth
go
or dare.
straight to hell after Spin the Bottle. If my mother ever finds out I kissed Johnny.
Yeah, and it's such a different world now. I mean, I was thinking the other day back to the kinds of TV shows I was watching when I was in grade 6 and 7, and I think my parents' biggest worry was Love Boat and Fantasy Island on a Saturday night.
Right, or Dallas.
I mean, now or Dallas, or Dynasty was a big one. But now the nature of what our kids are seeing on TV is so much different, with Gossip Girl and Pretty Little Liars and Real Housewives and every reality show on the planet, you know?
Do you think there's a reverse in that? For instance, the Real Housewives, that a teenager, one of yours, could watch it and say, no matter what, Mom, I'm not going to grow up to value what those girls value. Life is not about Botox and big lips and money. It's about being who you really are. It's about giving back. It's about so much more. And women bond and women protect each other. And if, as you know so well, if your girlfriends are on your side, you can get through just about anything.
Yeah, and you know what? Smart girls at any age would see through that. I know my stepdaughters would see through that.
So would you let your stepdaughter watch Real Housewives?
Well, you know, that is something we're talking about in our home right now. And this is a perfect example of how, yeah, I've got the degree, but what do you do in real life?
Yes.
And I'm thinking, you know, we can't control everything our daughters are exposed to.
Nor should we.
What we can do is set reasonable limits. And we can also, again, teach them to be critical about what they see and hear. And so I'm going to be talking to Afton this afternoon about,
Great,
okay,
I hope she's
you know
watching.
what? Let's watch some of these shows together. And she better not be watching, she's at school.
Okay, you think. You don't always know. Apparently some of mine were at home.
Hey,
because I was on the radio, you see, then. And they could turn the radio on, and then they would know that I couldn't possibly come home because I was on the radio.
Yeah. So maybe it's a situation where we watch the show together. And
perhaps, yes.
we have a conversation about...
But not a judgmental conversation.
Not a judgmental conversation. A conversation about our society and what our society values and the hopes and the dreams that we have for the girls. What's important in life. But what's difficult is from such a young age, our kids are taught what to wear and how to act and what's important.
Exactly.
You know?
Saleema Noon, our guest, she's a sexual health educator. We'll return. Why are we taking a break? How long?